have receipts. So let's take a look, and obviously I have some investment in this story because it's saying that it's exposed as a Canadian government created propaganda organization. Like, we already knew they operated out of Quebec, which was already a big enough black eye for Canada. But now I guess this is exposing them as that the Canadian government is like gone in on this, which needless to say for me is troubling to say the least. Yeah, they are out of, yes, Anubis. They operate out of Montreal, Quebec. They're out of downtown Montreal. So, and as you guys may or may not know, not a whole lot of good it comes out of Montreal these days. Oh, Tybo, yes. Alright, let's take a look at just how fucking bad this is, shall we?
Sweet Baby Inc. does exactly what many people suspected, and now we have some definitive evidence proving that they are a state-funded organization backed by Canadian governments, all brought to us by Master of the TDS and his wife Writing Raven, and an
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. The Canadians themselves do not back this shit. This was done without the knowledge of the Canadian people. Because I will tell you flat fucking out, Ammo, I'm not telling you that. The Canadian people were unaware that their own government was funding and may have essentially created Sweet Baby Inc. They absolutely were not aware of it. And my guess is if this starts getting exposed widely, the people of Canada are going to be turning their eyes at the government going, "The fuck?" And it's honestly, it's unfortunate for me that this is coming out just after the fucking elections ended. Unfortunately. Like, we literally just had elections here, like, a month or two ago. Like, why could this story not have come out a few months ago before the elections, so this could have been something that the people could have thrown at the candidates? Well, like, Montreal knew Victor, yes, like Montreal and... Okay, so, is this quote-unquote Canadian government, is this going to be stipulated as Montreal or the federal government? Because provincial government and federal government are two very different things. Just so you're aware.
Brought to us by Master of the TDS and his wife Writing Raven, and an incredible report from their YouTube channel, Gothic Therapy. They have just dropped an absolute bombshell report exposing Sweet Baby Inc. as a massive Canadian government-created propaganda organization. And man, that's a mouthful. And wow, is anyone really surprised that behind the scenes, this little humble company that's supposed to just be narrative design and injecting some assistance and consultancy in the game industry, really at the end of the day, got set up by the Canadian government? What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash.
God, and this means, you know what this means. Oh God, I can already see what's going to happen with this. America was already looking at Canada in sort of an enemy capacity or as something to be conquered. No, Gore, we don't. No, we fucking don't. We fucking hate what's happened between the two countries as of late. But now, this coming out? People that enjoy games and enjoy movies that Sweet Baby Inc. is, like, taking part in? They're going to be looking at Canada as a potential enemy because if the Canadian government was funding this, like, oh, this is not going to look good for Canadians. And I will tell you flat fucking out. I will tell you flat fucking out. And no, the Canadian Prime Minister did not resign. No, Victor, I'm gonna stop and say that is wrong on every fucking level. Victor, Justin Trudeau did not resign because he pissed off Donald Trump. No. The people of Canada fucking hated Justin Trudeau. They have hated him for years. Because he basically did there was a lot. Amongst it was like open border thing, taxation, some like the bullshit thing with carbon taxes. Like there was a lot going on where people fucking hated Trudeau before Trump ever came into power. This the second time. It has been a long time coming that people hated Trudeau. Okay, it's him going up against like, pushing back on Trump with the whole thing. That's new, but that's not why people have hated him. But they've hated him for years. And anyway, back to this. This is going to paint an unfair light on Canadians, because I guarantee you, the vast majority of Canadians fucking hate Sweet Baby Inc. too. Hello, I'm in Canada. You guys hear me rage about Sweet Baby Inc. all the goddamn time. All right? No, Canadians don't like Sweet Baby Inc. Canadians don't like the DEI, but unfortunately, people are not going to hear that. So I am going to profess right fucking now, since I have a YouTube channel and a stream that gets at least a decent amount of views, I'm going to tell you guys right now, the Canadian people don't like Sweet Baby Inc. The Canadian people did not get the choice of whether or not to fund Sweet Baby Inc. They don't like DEI. They don't like Sweet Baby Inc. They don't like Bridge. They don't like any of that. Okay? They, believe it or not, Canadians share a lot in terms of like visage that Americans do. Whereas what Americans hate, Canadians tend to hate too. Yes, Leo, thank you. Canadians hate a lot of the same stuff that Americans do in terms of like social stuff. They really do. But you never hear about that, honestly. And, there's basically like a blanket thrown over the Canadian people on the American side, like, oh, Canadians think this. It's like, no, I'm telling you right fucking now. No, Canadians don't think that way. Canadians have issues with the same shit that Americans have issues with. So just bear this in mind as we go through. And Redeemer for Life, thank you for the follow, by the way.
JT. I saw this video recently from Master of the TDS, so massive shout out to him and his wife, Writing Raven, on their channel, Gothic Therapy, discussing a bombshell report of the consultancy agency, Sweet Baby Inc., and how their origin story of them just working behind the scenes to...
Quick question, chat. Since he is referencing the people that I was going to watch, should we pull shoot and watch the OG instead of Smash JT just summarizing? What do you think? It's like, I'm more than happy. I will leave this in the react when I put it up, but do we want to pull shoot and go to the original as opposed to Smash JT? Okay, I'm good with that. I am good with that. Hang on. I will switch over right now. Give me a second. I am totally cool with that. We will go to the OGs themselves. Gothic Therapy right fucking now. Hang on. Okay. So, we'll kick this off again. We're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. Okay. Oh, this is going into the react on YouTube, by the way. The first part was Smash JT, me talking. All that's going in, but we're going to go right to the source on this one. So let's fucking go.
I know what you're thinking. Oh, another Sweet Baby Inc. video from Gothic Therapy. This should be fun. No, not this time. This isn't just another takedown. This is a funeral. And the thing in the casket? It's not just Sweet Baby Inc. It's their origin myth. The bedtime story they sold the gaming industry. The tale of three friends chasing justice through narrative design. All of it fabricated. Because we found something they tried to erase. A name buried so deep it wasn't meant to be seen again. A founder with no face, no record, no past. And when we pulled the thread, the story collapsed. This wasn't a startup, it was a setup. And tonight, we're not just burying a company, we're exhuming a lie. Welcome to the wake.
Here we fucking go.
No time for hellos today. I'm Master of
Okay.
TDS.
I've got to go somewhere, chat, and unfortunately, I'm covering him and not her. So unfortunately, I got to cover some up. So he's here, just so you're aware. He's right there. Unfortunately, I've got to cover someone, and unfortunately, he got elected.
And I'm writing Raven.
And at this funeral, we're not offering to take your coat.
Or asking you to subscribe, because if at the end of this video you don't feel we've earned it, asking now would be a waste of time.
Sweet Baby Inc. calls itself a narrative development studio, one that helps marginalized voices tell their stories in games. But in reality, it's a smokescreen. Not just for what they do, but for how they began. For who really built this company.
Dirkwolf, I can't go to the middle because then I'll be blocking the stuff that they put on the screen. Sorry, I can't go to the middle.
It's all a lie. Not just the mission statement, not just the smiling PR, the whole thing. From the first sentence of their mission statement to the founder they tried to scrub from history.
Everything you've been told about Sweet Baby Inc. was constructed deliberately. And tonight, we're tearing that construction down, layer by layer. Everyone thinks they know the origin story.
According to the official version, Sweet Baby Inc. was founded in 2018 by Kim Belair, Dave Bedard, and Ariadne McGillivray, a boutique narrative studio, three friends with one dream.
It's cute, it's clean,
Dream.
and Kim's repeated it in every interview and panel for years.
But it's not true, because when you stop listening to the story and start reading the filings,
you realize Sweet Baby Inc. wasn't founded by three friends. It was filed by someone else. A man named Terrence Jason Huberts. A name you've never heard.
I don't know that name.
Because Kim Belair has never once said it.
not anywhere, like he was never there at all.
Yes, Kim.
Okay, the first shareholder is not the majority. And of course, he's in fucking Quebec. Of course. Yeah, they're all in Quebec.
Is listed, but the real origin? This wasn't a startup, it was a setup, filed in advance, masked with fiction, and delivered with a smile.
So who actually founded Sweet Baby Inc.? On paper, Kim Belair.
No, Mad Taz? No. No. That's where I went on that fucking rant earlier. Canada, the people of Canada don't fucking want this. Like, I know you're joking. I'm actually being serious here. Because I know a lot of fucking people in the US will look at this like, oh, the Canadian people were responsible for trying to inject DEI into our entertainment industry. And I'm telling you flat the fuck out, the Canadian people did not have fuck all to do with it. And they hate it just as much as the people in America do. Okay? Like, yeah, you can make jokes, haha, this is funny, but the people of Canada are not laughing. They are the people of Canada hate this shit too. It goes hand in hand with how people of Canada hated with the whole thing with the open borders that happened that allowed a massive fucking influx of people from primarily like East Asia to just flood into the country and like basically fill up housing, fill up jobs, etc., etc. It goes hand in hand with that. Like, fucking Canadians hate this shit too, but they had no choice. They were not given the choice in this. So, bearing in mind, like, number one, it's Montreal, and Quebec is the fucking redheaded stepchild that Canada doesn't want anyway. But all this shit, nobody in Canada wanted in the first place. Absolutely no one in Canada wanted DEI. They wanted actual they were all for supporting actual equality, but they did not want the fucking DEI shit that we now see injected into literally fucking everything. Nobody in Canada wanted that.
Ariadne McGillivray, Terrence Jason Huberts.
Huberts was listed as a vice president, director, and shareholder from day one. And even though they claim he was only involved for a single day,
his name stayed on record for 10 months across filings and corrections.
And as his name was quietly erased, they inserted a new one, Dave Bedard, who didn't even join until 2020, not as a founder, as a COO.
But in interviews, he's called a co-founder, because that's the...
Wait. Pseudonym, maybe? Is this a fucking pseudonym? Holy shit, is this a pseudonym for Terrence Jason Huberts? Oh, fuck, if that's what it is? Oh, shit. Ho, ho, ho.
Because that's the version they want you to remember. Let's talk about 1414 Rue Comedé, apartment 1001, a quiet Montreal condo, and the launchpad for not one, but two companies filed on the same day, May 21st, 2018.
Both were incorporated by the same man, Terrence Jason Huberts. One was a numbered entity, 1079235 Canada Inc. No team, no product. It dissolved quietly in 2021.
No one talked about it. And why would they? It was empty. A shell. Just another forgotten corpse in a filing cabinet.
But the second company, that one survived. It didn't disappear. It grew.
It landed studio deals. It got interviews, panels, and headlines. Yes, it was Sweet Baby Inc.
Filed by the same man from the same condo, but only one was built to last.
And the man behind both vanished. No interviews, no credits, not a single mention on SBI's website.
And for someone listed as...
Hold up. Hang on. I need to stop and back up here for a second. Hang on, let me find it. Okay. Foolish Sage. Hey, Foolish Sage. Got a question. What were you referencing just now? Huh? Who? And Atanashi, hold for a moment. Foolish Sage, who were you referencing right now? Huh? Were you referencing me by chance? Eh? Come on, you said it in chat. Were you talking? Were you referencing me? Come on. Drink all quiet on me now, gamer. You want to say it in chat? I want to know who you're referencing, because right now, the only person logically you could be referencing is me, right? Oh, not gonna talk now. Chat, I have a question for you. I have a general question for you, okay? You know that I don't talk too much about myself in terms of my personal life. I talk about a few things. Let me ask you, chat, a legitimate question, and I want a real answer from you guys, okay? I want a real legitimate answer from you guys. If it was to come out for whatever reason, if it was to come out that behind the screen, I am male and, well, that's it. Would that be an issue? Chat. Would you have a problem with this if somewhere down the line that it gets revealed I am a guy behind the camera? That a problem? So, why bother even saying it? Exactly. Exactly. But as I expected, nothing is being said. No response. Exactly.
Don't care, Ember is Ember to me.
Thank you, Xanax. So if you're gonna come into my chat, you don't open things up with statements like that just because you want to try and rattle me. Because guess what? You're not gonna rattle me. And all you're gonna get is me calling you out. Anyway, now that that's taken care of, chat, shall we resume the video?
Filed by the same man from the same condo, but only one was built to last.
And the man behind both vanished. No interviews, no credits, not a single mention on SBI's website.
And for someone listed as a vice president, director, and shareholder on day one, that's not silence.
That's erasure.
In October 2019, over a year
Right.
after incorporation, Sweet Baby submitted a correction to their corporate filings, one that removed Terrence Jason Huberts entirely and reassigned his shares to Kim Belair retroactively.
That's not a correction. That is a cover-up.
They didn't just update
Yeah.
the paperwork, they rewrote the past. So anyone checking later would only see the version they wanted remembered, the one with.
So what the fuck are they trying to hide? That is deliberate obfuscation. What were they trying to hide? It's Becky, I don't know if it could be classified as fraud, so to speak. Granted, I'm not an expert on business legalities. I do not know. But it doesn't sound like fraud. It sounds like, okay, we're going to try and cover up something that we did, but it sounds like it may have been done legally. So I do think legally it was done properly, but they're definitely trying to obfuscate the fuck out of something. And I still think that that guy that got brought in as, quote, COO, I'm thinking that's the original guy. Yeah, well, Eggy, fair point there. That I just, when someone mentions fraud, my brain instantly goes to illegal, but essentially like legal fraud, yeah, that's right. That's about right there. And that's fucking scummy. It's what are they hiding? These are people that have something to hide, so what are they trying to fucking hide? Downey, no, I don't think it was a plant. I think this is someone that is operating from the shadows. This sounds like it's the whole. I'll use this expression. It's not exactly quite correct, but the whole concept of like the shadow government controlling everything from behind the scenes. That is what I think is going on here. This person, Terrence, is controlling from behind the scenes, and Kim Belair is basically the face that for lack of a better. Oh, that's what you. Okay, I'm sorry, Downey. I misunderstood you. My apologies. Something like that, Anubis. Yeah, like they're running a game. Moose, I'm thinking Terrence is not the alias. I'm thinking that the name of the person they put into COO. I'm thinking that's the alias. My suspicion is the person that got added in is the alias, I think.
Without him. And the only thing left? A footnote saying he was there for a single day.
Why do that?
Okay.
Unless you're actively trying to bury where the company really came from.
And by the way, the reason why I say this is the real person and the other person is not is because this person is actually listed a home address. The other person we saw earlier, The other person, the home address is listed as unpublishable. That's what makes me think that that COO that came in is the alias for Terrence Huberts. That's why I'm thinking he's the alias.
From? Now you might be thinking, okay, maybe Terrence just walked away. Maybe it's not that deep.
Except there's nothing on him. No LinkedIn, no Twitter, no interviews, no credits, no trace. So, who was he? Who is Terrence Jason Huberts? Because if you try to look him up, as we said, you find almost nothing.
What you do find is a name, a filing, and a mystery.
But we dug deeper, and what we found was strange.
Archived government records show a man named Terry Huberts served as a member of the British Columbia legislature from 1986 to 1991. Same last name, same province. A quiet politician who vanished from the public life.
And in the few interviews he gave before quote-unquote disappearing, one detail stood out. He had a son named Jason.
The founder of Sweet Baby Inc. was Terrence Jason Huberts.
That's not just a match. That's a statistical anomaly. Let's break it down. Huberts is about 1 in 50,000 Canadians. Terrence, rare. Middle name Jason, rarer. A son named Jason, 1 in 20. And then it gets weirder.
One of the companies Terrence Jason Huberts registered used an address in Ottawa for...
No, Roas, it's not the British. It's British Columbia. It's a Canadian province. It's the West Coast Canadian province. They're not British. Remember, Canada left Britain. Canada is its own sovereign nation. I will say that again for those in the cheap seats. Canada is its own sovereign nation separate from Great Britain. Because you might notice that currency is not the British pound. We have our own currency. That means we are not part of the Great Britain. By the way, Emil, thank you for the gifted. Kawazabat and Desmona, thank you both for the follows.
475 Elgin Street.
Years later, Terry Huberts, the politician.
Okay. I didn't want to have to say this, but I'm going to say it. Chat, I will not allow jokes about Canada being excised or being annexed into the United States. That is a topic of seriousness that I don't find funny because there are people in positions of power that take it seriously, that look at that seriously. I don't want any talk of that. Ever. Because that is literally talking about the US going to war with Canada, and that shit ain't funny. Okay? So, no talking about that, please. I want US and Canada to have good relations with one another that don't stem from negativity. Even joking, it's not funny because there are people that actually take it seriously. Okay, so I'm asking. I'm not I'm not being angry. Don't think I'm angry, but I am being serious. I don't want even jokes about that because there are too many people in the US in positions of power that do think of it seriously. And it potentially could lead to some serious shit that will affect you guys and me and and people in chat that are also Canadian. I don't want that. Okay, so please, I'm asking. Please don't even joke about it. Okay?
5 Elgin Street.
Years later, Terry Huberts, the politician, was running a veterinary clinic out of an entirely different city, different province. Suite 475 Broadmead Village, Victoria.
2 cities, 2 decades apart, with the same suite number.
We ran the numbers.
Wait. Ah, interesting. Yeah, that's a little bit too much of a coinky dink. Don't you think? Yikes.
Decades apart with the same suite number.
We ran the numbers, factoring in the name rarity, generational naming, and the suite match. The odds of this being a coincidence are 1 in 100 million.
Now, we're not saying it's definitely the same man.
But if it's not, then somehow Canada has two people named Terrence Jason Huberts, one a corporate ghost and one a retired politician who publicly mentioned having a son named Jason, both tied to Suite 475 addresses, both disappearing into the background.
And if that wasn't enough,
in 1989, as
here
Minister
we go.
of Parks, Terry Huberts authored a government policy framework, one that outlined how the private sector could embed itself into public systems.
Wait a minute, what the fuck? Hold up. Hold the fuck up. The development of a permanent, effective, and mutually beneficial partnership between BC Parks and the private sector must occur within a sound framework of management principles. If it is to be publicly supported and operationally successful, the principles adopted are designated and managed to preserve particular places of natural beauty and historical value, which are of lasting importance. Under the authority of the Park Act, and the Minister is the agency responsible for management of all matters, the park system, preservation, park heritage values, ultimate. Okay. So this is all kind of benign. May be invited to provide goods and services in provincial parks for public recreation use and enjoyment if, in the opinion of the Minister, such public involvement results in the maintenance or enhancement. Okay. This honestly doesn't sound all that new. Like, realistically, bringing in the private sector to work with the public sector isn't expressly new. I'm reasonably sure this has kind of been done in some form before 1989. I think, I could be mistaken, but I think it has. And not necessarily a citywide HOA, just for the literal provincial parks. There are like parks designated as provincial parks, so it's limiting it to that, not just like a statewide thing.
Minister of Parks, Terry Huberts authored a government policy framework, one that outlined how the private sector could embed itself into public systems, private contractors operating within government parks, silently, efficiently, invisible to the public eye.
Sound familiar?
If this is the same man, then Sweet Baby Inc. wasn't built to tell stories. It was created by the Canadian government from day one, structured by an insider, disguised as a consultant.
Okay. That may be stretching it slightly. It's safe because Terrence Jason Huberts, I'm reasonably sure, may not have been in office when this, at the inception of this, because this was this was like 2018, and I'm reasonably sure Terrence Huberts, I'm reasonably sure this was done after he was out of public office. Now, could he have used his knowledge of the working mechanisms of government to facilitate it? Yes. He understood how a private company could get injected into a governmental system or vice versa. But I don't think he was actually in office at the time, but he certainly could have still had contacts within the current government at the time in 2018. That certainly is a possibility. Absolutely a possibility, yes.
The consultancy used to control the narrative.
And if it's not the same person, then we've uncovered the most statistically impossible.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, fantastic. I can't. Yeah, we do have like 2 minutes left.
Coincidence in modern Canadian corporate history.
So let's pull back. We've shown you the filings, the erasure, the founder with no record, a man who may or may not be the same Terry Huberts who once designed frameworks for embedding private contractors into public systems.
The names match, the dates match, the suite numbers match, and the math does not lie.
You heard
Okay.
us right. People have speculated that Sweet Baby Inc. might be receiving government funding. But if this connection is real, then the company wasn't just funded by the Canadian government, it was built by a former government official from the very beginning. And when that
Okay.
truth threatened the image, they rewrote it.
Not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered too much to let you see.
Before we go, there is
Uh-huh.
one last thing that you should see. Because Sweet Baby Inc., it doesn't just have one name.
We found an alias. Design Sweet Baby. Filed on the same day. Quiet,
Huh.
unlisted, and never explained.
Why register a second name unless you're planning for a lifeboat?
Filed in advance, in case the first identity
Hey.
couldn't stay afloat.
But if that was the plan, it failed. Because now we see it.
And the baby?
The baby is dead. So if you were counting on Design Sweet Baby to be your clean slate, too late.
You can run,
Whoopsie.
little baby, but we will always find you.
Okay. Hey, now. Hey. So this sounds damning on his face, particularly with the way it's presented. However, I am going to point out, yes, Kybel, that's where I'm going. So it talked about how Sweet Baby was founded. That is entirely possible that a former Canadian politician may have been involved in the creation of this company. It does not say anything regarding the Canadian government itself creating Sweet Baby Inc. Okay? I'm going to point that out. Nothing we saw in that video indicates that the Canadian government was responsible or had a direct hand in the creation of Sweet Baby Inc. There was nothing in that video that said it. It said a former politician was very likely a part of the originating company. And could this politician have had some kind of contacts within the government then to maybe get some startup money or something? Yes, that is certainly possible, but it's not that the tagline here, this here is clickbaity. This is kind of clickbaity because Sweet Baby Inc., by their own evidence that they presented, was not built by the government. It had the involvement of a former government official. But realistically speaking, all the evidence presented does not say that the Canadian government had direct involvement in the foundation, the forming, and the building of Sweet Baby Inc. Based on the facts that we have been presented with. That needs to be clear. Nothing in the evidence that has been presented in this video gives any indication that this company is a government-built company. Could they have received funding from the government after its formation? Certainly. Absolutely. In fact, I think there's been talk about how several governments have given money to Sweet Baby Inc. For whatever reason. But this is saying that the company was actually built and founded by the government, and I'm sorry, based on the evidence, that is incorrect. Based on the evidence that has been presented in this video, that is incorrect. The Canadian government did not build and found it. Turahan. But I just want to make that clear. So the video title is kind of clickbaity because there's no evidence that was presented to substantiate the title. So it basically delves more into what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. and how it came to be, and how there is like some mysterious person working behind the scenes. Yeah, that's interesting. But it is disingenuous to say the Canadian government founded Sweet Baby Inc.